the name. It's 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name.
So the Golden State Warriors have lost in the NBA Finals, with the Toronto Raptors winning in 6. And I think we can all agree that this was unexpected. If you go back and look at everyone's playoff predictions, and you go back to the start of the season, and even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the Golden State dynasty, we did not expect it to end, especially this season. Everybody at the start of this season thought, wow, DeMarcus Cousins, paired with Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, this is the craziest lineup in the world. Unfortunately for them, they've struggled with injuries, especially in the playoffs. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. DeMarcus Cousins was not the DeMarcus Cousins we once knew and loved. Klay Thompson tore his ACL. It could not have gone worse for the Golden State Warriors. But what is the next step? How do they get back? Can they get back? And this is what I think. Now, this is a series that I want to do on this channel, so if you guys have any other teams that you want to see next, maybe the Raptors, maybe any other team, your favorite team, let me know down below. Keep in mind, this is before free agency. This is before the draft. This is before a lot of things. But let me know what team next. Anyway, in this video, what we're going to do is talk about how they can get back to that 73-9 team, even with an injured Klay Thompson and all their other injuries going on. And then I'm going to provide some free agent suggestions on who I think the Warriors should go after. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Well, first of all, Kevin Durant. He's an unrestricted free agent, but he has a $31.5 million player option for the 2019-2020 season. Obviously, he's not going to play for majority of this season, if not at all. So to accept this would be a smart move on his part, because he'll still be getting paid $31 million, but at the same time, that is money that the Golden State Warriors could use elsewhere. So it's probably a negative for the Golden State Warriors, especially if he only re-signs for 1 year. That's even worse for the Warriors, considering he's not going to play, and if he does, it's going to be a risky situation when he does come back. But if Kevin Durant does decide to leave to a team like the New York Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, the LA Clippers, well, he's probably going to miss the season and come back the year after. So it could be a risk for a high reward, or it could be a risk that doesn't pay off. In the end, we won't know. I think for the Golden State Warriors, they will end up re-signing Klay Thompson, who is a free agent, and I do think they'll end up signing Kevin Looney as well, and Quinn Cook, as these guys are all free agents. As for DeMarcus Cousins, I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I think they're going to try and leave the cap space open, because after all, he was a 1-year rental that didn't pay off, obviously, because they couldn't win a championship. Number one, for DeMarcus Cousins, it's a little bit disappointing. The only reason he joined this team was to win an NBA championship, and that didn't happen. And the other part of his game that's really disappointing is that obviously he is not his past self. He's not the DeMarcus Cousins that we once watched and once thought he was the best big man in the game. He is simply just a DeMarcus Cousins who finds it a little bit hard to jump. Although the Warriors didn't really run many plays for Boogie Cousins, so we can't tell if he's going to be an 18-10 guy or a 20-10 guy or a 25-11 guy. Who knows what he'll be in the upcoming seasons. But as for the Golden State Warriors and what they will do, well, obviously he's not going to accept another $5 million contract to come back. And with Kevin Durant either re-signing or not re-signing, it's hard to tell what will happen there, because simply, we just have to wait. But in my opinion, I don't think DeMarcus re-signs with this team, even with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant injured. The one thing that does come in the Warriors' favor though is because Klay Thompson's max isn't what it would have been had he made it to an All-NBA team this season, he would have been eligible for a $221 million contract, but the most he can sign with now with the Warriors is $190 million, or $189.6 million, which is a difference of $31 million over the same amount of years, which means that is a very, very good thing for the Golden State Warriors if they want to keep Klay Thompson. Unfortunately for him and the Warriors, he just tore his ACL, which isn't great news. I think that they're going to keep Curry, they're going to keep Klay, and they're going to keep Draymond, because at the end of the day, that was a 73-9 team. But what was the difference between that team and this team is their bench. How can they get to that 73-9 team, or at least close to, next season? Well, first of all, they keep Stephen Curry. They're going to need a guy that can fill the void of Klay Thompson, which is going to be really, really hard. Obviously, Klay is not only one of the best offensive talents in the NBA, he's one of the best defenders. So a guy that you can get as a two-way player that good is going to be hard to find. But they still have Draymond Green. Harrison Barnes is a free agent. Honestly, they can bring him back. They probably won't, but they could if they really wanted to. Andre Iguodala is aging a little bit, so he's still on the team though. Andrew Bogut is still on the team. Even he's aging a little bit, so a guy that can be a backup center, that can produce the way that Bogut did back in 2015, is possible. They had Festus Ezeli, which, once again, it's just a backup center that they can just replicate. Sean Livingston is still on the squad. Yeah, he probably isn't the 2015 Livingston, but he's still a solid player. They had Spates, Barbosa, Brandon Rush, Ian Clark, McAdoo, Looney, Virgil, and Jason Thompson. Jason Thompson didn't play. Virgil didn't play. Kevin Looney is on the team, and once again, he is even better if they re-sign him. McAdoo wasn't a huge part in what the Warriors did in 2015. Ian Clark and Brandon Rush and Barbosa, they're just offensive talents that they can still fill the void of this season if they get somebody like them in free agency. The thing about the Warriors though, and what made that 73-9 team great, was how they worked together as one team. One of the most underrated teams in my opinion, because we look back at that team and I'm like, it's not that crazy of a team. It's not Kevin Durant, it's not DeMarcus Cousins. That is just Curry, Clay, Draymond, and depth. They had depth, and that's what they need once again in 2020. And don't get it twisted. By underrated, I don't mean the team is underrated. I just mean they went 73-9 to have the best record of all time. With that squad, come on, it's pretty solid. So to think that the Warriors are still out of it next season, you gotta be out of your mind. This is still a very, very good squad. Klay Thompson is obviously a very frustrating out, but who says that he can't come back at the end of next season? He tore his ACL. ACLs take about a year to heal or less. He still has a possible chance to return in the playoffs, and don't count that out. Now, one player, considering that Klay Thompson is injured, and they're going to need a shooting guard to fill his void, there's a guy in free agency that is very, very similar to Klay Thompson. Obviously, he's not as good, especially on the defensive end, which will make a difference. But offensively, even despite his age, is still a very, very solid player. And that's JJ Redick. Now, do I see him leaving the Philadelphia 76ers? Probably not, but if the Philadelphia 76ers are going for a max player, and they seem like they could get a superstar in this year's free agency, which we have no idea if they will, or if they could, simply because we don't know what Redick will do, we don't know what Butler will do, we don't know what Tobias Harris will do, but if the Philadelphia 76ers don't go after JJ Redick, he could be a perfect fit to join the Warriors, especially on the offensive end, or even as a sixth man. Obviously, he's been under one-year contracts for the last few years, so he'll be looking to sign a bit of a longer-term deal, and maybe with the Golden State Warriors, he could be that guy. Obviously, now they're going to have to fill the bench depth that they lack, and I think a guy that could be a great fit could be Marcus Morris. He's a guy, obviously played for the Boston Celtics this season, and because of the uncertainty that the Boston Celtics are undergoing in this year's free agency, he might be a guy that could just leave. And ultimately, he averaged 14 points, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, shooting 45% from the field goal and 37.5% from 3. So he can stretch the floor, and he had one of the best years of his career playing with the Celtics, and even Brad Stevens really praised him this season. And I think if he doesn't come back to the Celtics, depending on what they do this offseason, he could be a guy that the Golden State Warriors target because he is 29 years old. He's not going to ask for a ton of money. He's already shown that he can be a great player off the bench. And with the injuries that they have, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the 4, Draymond plays the 5, especially with Kevin Durant injured. He could be a guy that comes off the bench, who starts, who knows. But because he can stretch the floor, because he is just a solid player in general, I think he would be a great fit for the Golden State Warriors. And I don't think many players now who join the Warriors are going to cop the criticism that they once copped, simply because the Golden State Warriors are not what they were even just a few years ago, or even from the start of this season. Another guy that the Golden State Warriors can look at for their bench depth could be a guy like Jeremy Lamb. Lamb is not old at all, he's 26 years old, and Lamb averaged 15 points on 44% from the field, 35% from 3. He seems like a guy that can score off the bench and even just become a sixth man for them. Lamb had his best scoring year of his career, and this guy was drafted with the 12th overall pick in 2012. He's still developing, and I think that if he goes to the Warriors and he plays as that sixth man alongside Iggy, alongside Livingston, he will play under veteran guys, but he will be the main scoring guy, which is really all they need. If they can still keep Quinn Cook, he could be a guy that could come off the bench along with Quinn Cook and play very, very good minutes, and all he has to do is score the ball, and that's what he's really good at. Jeremy Lamb is not the best defender, but he is still young and he still has some athletic ability to him. He can improve on that aspect of his game, but offensively, Jeremy Lamb is still very solid, and if you can run him as a sixth man, he almost could be a candidate for sixth man of the year if the Warriors run all their offense through him off the bench. Now another guy that could be a potential player for the Golden State Warriors, and this may be really risky, or it could be an actual good fit, and that's Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, I know, he's been a little bit off with Oklahoma City Thunder, with the Houston Rockets. Both teams obviously did not enjoy Melo's company, but Melo wasn't that bad on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, it's easy to criticize a guy when everybody else criticizes him, but if I said to the Golden State Warriors, here's a guy who averaged 16 points, 6 rebounds, on 40% from the field, would you take it? And honestly, if that's a guy that plays for a random team who's about 28 years old, you would say yes, because those are some decent stats. Even last year, when he played 10 games for the Houston Rockets, whilst he wasn't a good fit, a 10-game margin from a guy coming off the bench who averaged 13.4 points, 5.5 rebounds on 40% from the field. Is that honestly that bad? I don't believe so, but take that as you will. Why not just sign Melo? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you don't need to play him a ton of minutes. If he's on an NBA team and you need scoring, give him a shot, in my opinion. I think he can still produce, I still think he can still play the NBA, and I still think a lot of people underrate his game, and I'm not off the Melo bandwagon just yet. And even if he doesn't perform, don't play him that many minutes. It's a risk that could pay off. Maybe. So if Klay Thompson can come back, at least maybe halfway through the next season, that's all they need, because Curry and Draymond, they'll be probably good enough to make the playoffs, and if they get Klay Thompson back, and hopefully they improve their bench depth a little bit, they can still be a force to be reckoned with in the Western Conference. Anyway, with that being said, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What do you think is next for the Golden State Warriors? And let me know if you'd like to see this series expand with other teams. I can do the Toronto Raptors next, the Lakers, the Boston Celtics, any team, the New York Knicks, on what I think will happen and what they need to focus on next. If you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and follow me on Instagram, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. I'm out.